It's always something with me. We're starting the vlog at 5 o'clock exactly. That's kind of satisfying. But like this morning, I had my breakfast. I made it myself. Which, should I be saying that now? No. So I ate and I filmed a makeup ASMR video, and I was kind of dizzy when I was doing that. I filmed my outfit video for Facebook Reels. I think it's Reels on Facebook. Then I filmed my sit down video talking about books that are on my radar. And after that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna chill out for a little bit because I had to charge my phone that I film on. Then I filmed my TikTok of the books on my radar. And then after that, I was like, okay, I need to put some food in the fridge so it doesn't go bad. And I was just doing chores, and then I just had like a wave of nausea come over me. I was like, I gotta get to the bathroom. So I did, and I threw up twice. But then after that, I was like not dizzy anymore. And the funny thing is, an earthquake happened right when I was throwing up. It I didn't feel it, but it was like off of Cuba, but felt really like far north into Florida and all, so I don't think that somebody in South Carolina would be able to feel that. But I'm like, is that what made me dizzy? I don't know. Very weird. But I feel fine now, and I slept after I drank some water, and I slept for like an hour maybe after that whole episode. And then I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry, and I don't have a fever or anything like that. But that was very annoying, and so I'm assuming it was my breakfast that didn't agree with me, which is again annoying because I took all the time to cook it, then eat it. I'm like, did it make me sick? But as I said, I feel fine now. So we're gonna go over the weekly TBR that is like falling everywhere behind me. So I didn't read in the 3 o'clock hour today. So I'm not gonna be able to read as much today as I would have liked to. But that's just life. I don't even know if I'm going to read today, because I was really wanting to film this clip when I got really nauseous. I was like, because I had gone to get my SD card and then the battery for the camera. So annoying. But again, we're here for the weekly TBR. This week's theme for the vlog is my buddy read, my book club read. So this is the book that I'm reading over on Fable. And if you want all the spoilery thoughts, that link will be down below to Fable. But I will be sharing my non-spoilery thoughts here in the vlog. So the book I will be starting my day with tomorrow. I am going to vote tomorrow, so I don't know what time I'm going to do that. I don't know what the times are for the polls. But we have our primary here, so if I go vote at lunch, I probably won't get to this tomorrow. I'm not sure. I just have to make a strategy for that, because also it's going to be storming, and I think I'm going to be in a long line, but I don't know. I usually early vote, but just this is a primary, so I'm not early voting. I'm just not early voting. So this is Bret Easton Ellis and The Other Dogs by Lena Wolf, translated by Frank Perry. This is a piece of Swedish literature, believe it or not. Writing style very, what I'm coming to terms with, that Sweden's known for this very long run-on. What we see in English as run-on sentences is just how it's translated from Swedish. But this is about a rundown brothel in Spain, and the prostitutes are collecting stray dogs. We have not got to anything like that happening yet in the book, but that's what it's about. So the main focus, the one that the book club is reading, is a book that was on a TBR last year, I think for thrillers, that I neglected. I didn't finish the TBR, so I didn't get around to this book. So we are going to read it now. And is the spine already broken a little bit? Yeah. I got this at Barnes & Noble, so. But this is Misery by Stephen King. Best-selling novelist Paul Sheldon has finally met his biggest fan. Her name is Annie Wilkes, and she is dismayed to discover Paul's plans to kill off Misery Chastain, the heroine of his beloved series. Annie is more than a rabid reader. She is Paul's nurse, tending his shattered body after an automobile accident. She is also his captor, imprisoning him in her isolated house where no one knows he is. Annie wants Paul to write his greatest work just for her. She has a lot of ways to spur him on. One is a needle, another is an axe, and then there's the blowtorch. Okay, now we have my mood read, which I'm about a third of the way into, and that is The Untold Lives of the Women Killed by Jack the Ripper by Hallie Rubenhold. Pretty self-explanatory title. It's giving these women their stories back, giving them dignity, because there's just been so many rumors and a lot of essentially fake news by how these reports were told. in the 1800s when this was going on. It's not trying, this book isn't trying to identify who Jack the Ripper was like so many Jack the Ripper books try to do. This is showing who these women who came across this path, who they really were. And then we have my ebook, and that is Texas Rich by Fern Michaels. We're actually going to read the first paragraph here of what this is about, because I have not read this description. A novel that introduces the unforgettable Coleman family and the brilliant heroine who began a powerful American dynasty. And I think at the point where I'm at in the book, a little over the halfway point, she's finally been like, I gotta take control of my own life. I'm not gonna let my mom control me. I'm not gonna let my father-in-law control me. I'm going to be my own person. So shout out to Billy for being able to do that. I am going to be reading Misery on ebook. So that, again, I will be starting that in a little less than an hour at 6 o'clock. And then I'll come back and give you all an update. I did end up reading, I read 6% of Misery, which on the ebook was 28 pages. And the physical copy, that is 23 pages. Tomorrow I should be able to read a little bit more than that. I like to read around 10 to 15%, so let's say 12% of a book a day, but obviously y'all know my circumstances. I was not able to do that today, and it's no biggie. But I do have my notes, and I'm not sure if these are going to be chapters yet or if they're little sections within a chapter, because Stephen King, with his other books, I've only read it. I'm pretty sure, like, I feel like I've read more, but I think I've only read it. But with him and some other authors, like Ken Follett is one that I'm thinking you will have sections within chapters, so it could be like 1.1. I'm not sure if these are chapters or sections, is what I'm trying to say. So with 1.2 is when I have my first note. At first, I didn't know what our scenario was going on here. I didn't know if this was him waking up after the car accident or waking up being a hostage, because we know he's in and out of pain. He is really like in and out of consciousness is another way you could put it, where he's envisioning these times at the beach as a child, but then he feels pain. So I wasn't exactly sure what was going on, but it is him waking up being held hostage. But when I was talking about with the beach stuff, it's called like the piling. I'm thinking that is like a dock, maybe, like the pilings. I'm thinking wood over water. I am gonna have to do a quick Google search just to confirm exactly what that is, so I have the right picture. But it seems like that's gonna be a reoccurring theme of where he goes in his mind when he's trying to distract himself from the experience that he's going through. In chapter 4, we do really get introduced to Annie, who is the woman that is holding him hostage. She's not really what I imagined her to be, but it does make a lot of sense. Like, I can so easily envision this woman that Stephen King described being the she's not the hostage, the one holding him hostage. I can so totally picture, and he does have such a vivid description of her in my mind. But now I am curious how she got a hold of him. I want to talk about what I thought this book was going to be when I read the description on the back. My interpretation of what I was like, okay, this is how I think this story is going to go. Paul gets in his car accident. He goes to the hospital and all of that. And then I assumed the family hired a nurse. And just in this case, he went to go stay with her rather than her going to stay with him. I don't know. That might happen in the real world. It might not. He goes to stay at her house, and it turns out that she's his biggest fan because she heard about this posting of her favorite author needed a nurse. And she's like, that'll work out. I'll go be his nurse and be psycho about it. So that is what I thought was how this was all going to go. And no, it didn't necessarily go like that. What does go is that she comes across the car accident, and to me, that's just kind of suspect. I'm like, his biggest fan just so happens to come across her favorite author who she's parasocial about, finding him crashed, and it seems like very extreme lower body injuries. What are the odds of that happening, especially in the middle of nowhere, Colorado? So either that's just what we're being told up front, and then there is going to be something deeper there, or maybe it is just that much of a coincidence. I mean, sometimes life is like that, but to me, I'm like, got to suspend your disbelief, like with Valley of the Horses. In chapter 6, she is explaining to him all of what happened that day from her point of view. And then he's having inner thoughts of everything he remembers of that day. Because obviously when you get into a car wreck, you're going to go into shock and you might have mild like amnesia. So he is just remembering everything up to that moment while she is also telling what happened from her point of view that day and how her day was that day. That was kind of confusing for me, seeing that back and forth going between these two dialogues, his being inner, hers being outward. That was confusing. Luckily, I can read a paragraph several times to get an understanding of what's being said out loud and what's being thought. But that is kind of annoying at times to read that, but it does make total sense. And I think we're really immersed into Paul's shoes as being so confused, trying to make sense of this situation that he is in. The description, we talked about the book series is Misery, but with Annie finding out that her favorite character, whose name is Misery, has been killed off, we're actually going to see her realizing like she just got his new book while holding him hostage, and she's going to find out that he killed off her favorite character, who she's named Livestock after. Like she's obsessed, which I mean I think that's totally like normal for people to name their pets or whatever after book characters. We see that quite a bit, but she's going to go berserk when she finds this out, and we are going to witness that. So that's going to be a lot of fun, because again, I thought it was going to be that she found out he was injured and is a nurse and is like goes after that job of being his nurse, but no, that's not how this goes. We're gonna find out what her reaction, her live reaction, is going to be to her favorite character getting killed off. Annie, we've all been there, girl, but we didn't do all this that you're doing and stuff that I think you might do. That does make me wonder if this was like an indirect at Stephen King talking about his crazy fans. This was originally published in 1987 from what I saw on Goodreads. I don't know if the term parasocial was really being used back then. I didn't really start hearing that term until like the last 5 years maybe. I'm really curious if this was as Stephen King was being freaked out by really crazy fans and was like, I'm gonna write a book about that. That's a good idea. Or this was just something that came out in his creative process. I don't know, but I would be curious to know what inspired him to write this book. And those are my thoughts for the day on Misery by Stephen King. It is Tuesday. I just pretty much got done with my chores. I think I've done everything, but sometimes I feel like I've done everything and I'm like, wait, I left something out. But I did go and vote today. I did my civic duty. The people at polling stations are only so nice. I've legit never had a bad experience voting. So I did vote in the South Carolina primary today. So I know that a lot of you or states might not have had theirs yet. So this is me encouraging you to use your right to vote. Go vote. It's a fun time. I was in and out of there less than 5 minutes. I went at lunchtime just to give y'all like a reference. But I know it's going to be different in every city, every state. I am in a pretty populated area. I don't know if it's the most populated area of the city, but it's quite, there's a lot of foot traffic. There's a lot of people, so it's great. Everybody there, fantastic, all around. I wish I could leave a review for a voting place. Maybe you can, but 5 out of 5 experience. I'm gonna go read my short story now. I don't have too many notes in Misery for the day. I read 52 pages, getting me to, I think it was 17% of the way into the book. These chapters are very short, so it does go by pretty quickly, even though the last one I read was 13 minutes on the Kindle. Not that many notes. My first one is that Annie's kind of right. So he has his manuscript, and apparently it's like cussing every other word. And we have this discussion with my grandmother about like people on TV, whatever, who there's just a lot of language, and she's like, I just don't understand. And my dad and I are like, people, they talk like that in the real world. Paul's argument to her, and she's like, I don't go to the store and say effing this and all of that, like every other word. And I'm like, she's right. I never hear that in the real world. I hear it online, but I never actually hear it like in person. So She's kind of right. I'll get into some gross stuff today, where this first example, I will just say it dealt with rinse water, which is water when you clean, like the water that you're rinsing your rag or your mop into. Yeah, that had me be like, ew. We're getting into some gross stuff. I didn't expect this book to be gross. I expected it to be gory, but there's a difference in gory and gross. Like, if you know Otesha Moshfegh, like, I feel like it's kind of similar to that. And this pig keeps getting mentioned. As we talked about Misery, the pig's name is Misery. That Annie named the pig Misery. And with how this pig has been mentioned, I think the pig's going to be eating someone by then. I don't know if it's going to be Annie. I don't know if it's going to be Paul. But I do believe the pig is going to be eating somebody. What a theory to have. If somebody found these notebooks, it's like Verity last week. In the book club, so Miss Tony made a great point of not knowing what was induced by the drugs and what was real. All this could just be like in his head. That's not exactly what she said, but that's what I'm like thinking now. I'm like, oh my gosh, what if all of this is fake? What if like none of this is actually happening? What if he really is in a hospital and is just having these delusions? I don't know, but I think she also brought up the saying fever dream, and this is definitely a fever dream book, but it's very different from Bunny by Mona Awad is the book that I think of when I think fever dream book. It's very different than that. Just very different than modern fever dream books, but definitely going in and out of consciousness, going in and out of pain. Very interesting. But we do have Annie's reaction to the character being killed off, and it was comedic just seeing her crash out. I don't know if it was meant to be, but I was laughing. I thought it was funny. It was crazy. And then we have more grossness that had my jaw on the floor, that had to do with bodily fluids. I was just like this is not happening, but it's happening. We talked about yesterday with the palings, that kind of thing. And those being like these memories we're seeing when he is knocked out. It leads me to believe that he has some kind of like mommy issues with his mother, issues with his family, but particularly his mother's family, or just the mother herself. There seems to be some kind of issue there, and that is something that is like gnawing at Paul on the inside. We will have to see where that goes, if it goes anywhere. I feel like a lot of this stuff, because a lot of times I don't really have faith in authors that they're gonna get everything tied up how it's supposed to be. But this is Stephen King. Like, he's one of those iconic writers that everybody knows the name of. So I feel like the little details are all gonna add up to mean something. But then again, you never. It is time for Wednesday's update. I got to 30% of the way into Misery, which was 56 pages read. Therefore, today was my busiest day, and I am now at Misery Part 2, so we're going to be at like the 2.1 chapters. I don't know how that's going to look on Fable. I am kind of nervous about that, if I'm being honest with y'all. Let's get to my notes. So starting in chapter 23 is when my first note was. I don't have that many notes today, really just a handful, but I am really immersed into the character of Paul, of just thinking his thoughts, the way the tone is. You really get immersed into his character. So I do think this is really good character work. No, he's not like an all-time favorite character, at least not yet. So the character work would get a 4-star. Really, this has given me 3-star vibes. I actually think I preferred Verity, which is kind of crazy to say, but this is giving like 3-star at the moment. Because again, I'm only like 30% of the way into it. There's still a lot of book left and a lot of crazy stuff that could happen. And this is doing the things that a horror book is supposed to make you do, where things are just, I don't know, this is horror. Because for me, the difference in horror and thriller is if there's something supernatural involved. So I wouldn't say this is horror. But I don't remember what it was listed as on Goodreads. But besides the point, it does the things a horror book is supposed to do. It's gross, grotesque, and making me have like a physical visceral reaction. Sorry, I don't know that's the right word. That might be totally wrong, but it's making me have reactions of cringing, or it's being like, oh my gosh, that's so gross. It's making me do that, and that's what these kind of books are supposed to do. If only our girl Annie had fan fiction. If only fan fiction was as accessible as it is nowadays. I personally don't really read fan fiction, but I did back in middle school and high school. Annie really needed that. and she could have got the end of the character of Misery that she wanted. Instead, she's like, I'm gonna kidnap the author and force him to write a different, make him write a book that's just for me. Annie. I am also wondering, is this really a story of addiction and just showing what addiction can do to a person and how desperate you can get, the lengths that you will go to get that fix? I'm curious if that might be a thing, because I do know Stephen King, or at least I've heard, I shouldn't say I know, dabbled with drugs, and that's how some of his books were written. So I'm really curious when he got sober, if any of this is true. This is all allegedly from things I've read online. This kind of, if he was writing this during that same kind of time period, just really exploring the themes that addiction that has on people. Yeah, this at the last chapter where I left off, actually the one before that, I'm like, no, this cannot be happening, where I'm just like, no. So it's doing all the things that this kind of book is supposed to do, and I can appreciate that. This is somewhat bookish, so that's why I'm telling y'all. These are my mood reads, and I did not get to my spring ones. I do like to have 2 seasonal ones, but I read Burr, I read The Valley of Horses, both tomes where I wasn't able to get to Broken Country or Ready or Not. These were my spring picks. Wasn't able to get to them. Let me know, can this one work for summer too? I'm not sure, but we are going to switch these books out, save them for next spring or whenever they come up in my TBR game. So the summer ones that I'm replacing those 2 books with is The Compound by Aislinn Rawl and Shark Heart, a love story by Emily Haybeck. I've been wanting to get to these. All these books are books that I really want to read, but these scream summer to me. Book of the Month books are the ones to do it, because these are new releases, or they're not really that new anymore, but they're books that I hear about on TikTok all the time, hearing about from influencers, and I get influenced and want to pick them up. So these are the ones that hopefully we will be reading sometime soon. I also didn't realize Shark Heart was that big, but I mean, look at the chapters. We appreciate that, and I will be doing these as audiobooks to let y'all know. Let's talk about my reading today. With Misery, I got to 42%, which was 54 pages read. I do think this is going to be a carryover into next week's vlog. We'll just have to see what happens all over the weekend. And I have 3 notes. The first being, is Alice in Wonderland. I think the book is actually called Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I read that maybe 2 years ago. But is that the OG fever dream story? Let me know. I feel like some ancient cultures might have had other kind of stories like that. Before our modern times, I feel like Alice in Wonderland is like the OG fever dream story. It's got mentioned several times in here. That's why I'm making note of that, because that would just be really random for me to come up with otherwise. Annie gave Paul a typewriter so he can write her version of the story, essentially. The thing is, she got it secondhand, and the N is missing on the keyboard. So when he's doing this manuscript, he has to actually go in and physically write the letter N. I took a picture of what it looks like on my Kindle. I just really like how this was incorporated in the type of the book, of the actual book, you know, of how they did that. Just thought it was kind of cute, quirky. I don't know if those would be the proper words to describe it. And my last one, we are actually seeing this manuscript, almost fell to bed, this manuscript that Paul is writing. And I'm wondering if there's any kind of foreshadowing in that manuscript for what we're actually going to see happen in the story. I don't know if that's too, I don't know, like, not playing God, like it's too obvious, you know? I don't know. So that's why I'm like, I don't know if he's actually going to do that. But I have been thinking that a little bit. Let's go through the weekly wrap-up. I have only read 100 pages one day this week, that being yesterday. I read 103 pages when the other days are 92 and only 57 on Monday. But Monday was a wonky day for me. It was a wild time. For next week's vlog, it is the middle of the month vlog. I don't have an exact theme written down for what we're going to do, but I do think I'm going to do a Summerween vlog, because if we do finish Misery, Slewfoot by Brom will be my next book, so a horror book and witchy vibes, which I'm really into. so that'll be our next book that we read. And then I got a coloring book that is a summer-ween coloring book. Just throwing in some of these activities. The Compound's our next mood read, so that is very different from the 5. The 5 definitely more so fits the Spooky Girl Summerween, because it is about the women killed by a serial killer. I don't know if that will be in that vlog or not, because I do think I can finish up the 5 this weekend, whereas Misery, I'm only reading about 50 some pages a day. Which, yeah, I did not expect this to take me so long to get through. It's only 351 pages in length in this physical copy right here, which is pretty average for a thriller and for books in general. I'm struggling getting through it for some reason. Don't know why. I think it's probably because of the fever dream elements. But I'm going to be reading on the beach tomorrow, so hopefully my Kindle behaves. I'm bringing all the goods to the beach tomorrow to be reading on the beach. My notebooks, my pens. Yeah, I'm doing all of that. But that is all for this video. If you made it all the way through, leave a fruit emoji in the comments below. And as always, comment, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.